September 9th, 2025. This is HOA Today. HOA Today is brought to you by Zayuk. Zayuk is a company that provides software and inspection services to properties. Our product is for HOAs and condos. If you're an HOA manager or an HOA resident or board member, consider reaching out to us. We have a lot of modules like voting and reserves, mobile on desktop. Our inspection system gives you a reality capture, which is a 3D model and map of your property. And we do that with your reserves inspection every year. And you have some states like Florida, which require these inspections now for certain types of properties, specifically those 3 stories or larger. So we provide you software, we come and do your inspection, and it's a new way to integrate digital and physical systems, and it's called digital twin technology. So we'll continue with a story with various current events in the HOA sphere. We'll start with Utah. Utah unveils new office to help with HOA disputes from the Utah News Dispatch. Utahns now have a new resource to help resolve homeowner association disputes. New Office of the Homeowners Association Ombudsman. Launched on Monday under the direction of the Utah Department of Commerce, the office is a result of a bill, HB 217, passed by the Utah legislature, regulating homeowner associations. Now the Office of the Homeowner Association Ombudsman will review requests from either HOAs or their residents, then issue an opinion. Only deal with questions surrounding state laws, not specific rules enforced by individual HOAs. That's a big differentiation there. This is a quote, "The focus here is not to try and weigh in on whether your garbage cans can come in on time or what color your house is," unquote. But it's to target things like financial disclosures, laws pertaining to political yard signs, or other matters related to Utah code. The office will also maintain a registry of all Utah HOAs. Tangible difference by offering practical, accessible services like impartial advisory opinions. And there will be disciplinary action for those who do not register with the office. In that case, you can see that office is very similar to the office of Minnesota, and the registration panel is very similar to that of Florida, where you have these 2 states, Florida and Utah, wanting to get their HOAs on record and understanding which HOAs they have and where they exist. And then the ombudsperson in Minnesota, where they have an office to regulate state legislation that's used in HOA disputes. And we can review the Minnesota one again, but that's interesting to consider. I believe Utah also grew in population over the last 5 years and had a lot of housing built. So this might be in accordance with that. So we're going to continue with Utah. One moment. In one Utah neighborhood, acts of supervision have become a fight with HOAs. This is a Reddit post. So Reddit is a location where people who are upset with their homeowner association tend to air their complaints. There, I have also found an Instagram page that does something similar too. Letter banning parents from waiting with their children at the bus stop, whether standing or parked. Framed the adults as loiterers. Quote, our neighborhood is safe. You should feel safe leaving your kids at the bus stop. The homeowner reminded the HOA of recent events in which there was a quote unquote armed standoff. So this is a huge issue. It's not that huge of an issue, but it can escalate pretty quickly. It's a dispute about loitering and whether an individual is permitted to stand with their children. HOAs can regulate in accordance with their written code, covenants, conditions, and restrictions. The bus stop saga really shows us how far some boards Hello? Test, test, test. Shit. Give me one moment, everyone, and I'll improve the output of this. Great. Test, 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 test. All right. Sorry, everyone. That was kind of crazy. That was not good. But my computer just froze, so I had to restart everything, unfortunately. All right. So, let me get back. All right, let's continue. Roundup. McAllis, Stillwater HOA sues Google. We spoke about this a few weeks ago. In HOA Stillwater, construction of a new data center has led to a torrent of red mud and silt flowing into their neighborhood. Parkview Estates Homeowners Association filed a civil suit on August 19th. In Payne County District, in Google subsidiary Kuiper LLC, and Manhattan Construction Group, and civil contractor Emery Sapp. Stillwater residents approved the data center last November. City touted economic opportunities associated with the $3 billion project, new permanent jobs, community partnerships with Oklahoma State University, Stillwater Public Schools, and Meridian Technology Center. Promises significant benefits has come at a devastating cost to the long-term established neighborhood located directly next to the construction site. And this is a quote, for over 50 years, Parkview Estates was known for its pristine blue ponds, winding creeks, abundant wildlife, and outdoor recreational opportunities. Today, those same waters have been transformed into muddy, red, stagnant pools filled with dead and decaying fish. The once thriving wildlife has vanished, replaced only by scavenging turkey vultures. The natural beauty and outdoor enjoyment that define the neighborhood are gone. End quote. Data centers have huge water and energy demands, and this will be very interesting for the energy sector in general, where you might have private corporations looking to get into energy generation, which they are. They are energy storage, energy generation, because it's good for their business and important for their business. Data centers have drawn criticism, All right, we'll continue. This is in Florida politics, and we'll do a couple of Florida items. A notoriously stringent homeowner association in St. Petersburg revised its rules regarding roof materials due to mothers' vigilance in the aftermath of an unprecedented hurricane season. Kathleen Suller lost her home in the Tony Venetian Isles neighborhood to Hurricane Helene's storm surge. Wanted elevated replacement with more environmentally resilient metal roof. She enlisted Pelican Bay Home Builders, which serendipitously launched its line of wind and flood-resistant spec models just before the storms. The HOA disallowed anything but tiled roof homes, and Suller needed a new house within a year to ensure her son could complete his senior year. Embarked on a difficult process. After hurricane, you have a choice. You lose market value overnight. How do you get that back? How do you make it safe? You have to consider the fact that you live in a deed-restricted community. Helene brought a foot of water into the home, which was devastating. Darren Brinkley, the owner and president of Pelican Bay, Suller needed 66% of the neighborhood to approve the changes, with little time to spare. Suller persevered and went door to door with supportive neighbors. Together, they created a lasting change in the community. And we'll go back to Zayuk Smart Property System. We have a voting module, and so we make voting cheaper, a lot cheaper. So things like that can occur where you can vote on a covenant change more quickly, get consensus more quickly. Our app does apply consensus with anonymous, non-anonymous, and auditable voting. So either non-anonymous, where there's traceability, auditable, and it's public as well, auditable, which there is not traceability in any modules that you see, but Zayuk does have the data in the back end, and then you have anonymous, where even we don't have access to that data. We don't, there's a certain level of what occurs in the back in the computer side with the vote, and we don't store any data so that you have a truly anonymous vote. Okay, we'll continue, and it allows you to get things like this where you need 66% consensus across your association more easily. And this makes sense because Floridians are suffering. They want their homes to be more resilient against the extreme weather patterns they're seeing, not just for the value of their homes, but for the quality of their lives, because in certain areas it's gotten extreme. And they were able to make the change and get it. Very lucky the HOA has reasonable people. And Pelican Bay, a subsidiary of Next Design and Build, began developing the resilient spec house. Great. That's a positive story from an HOA where they had a rule that wasn't optimal and they were able to change that rule quickly in a way that made sense for their community. We'll continue. This is an article, How to Amend HOA Bylaws and Covenants in North Carolina, by wardansmith.com, and the article is written by Justin M. Lewis and Emily B. Sullivan. I'm not a lawyer, and none of this is legal advice. This is just for informational purposes. HOAs play a critical role in managing residential communities across North Carolina. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CCRs, and bylaws establish legal and operational framework for how a community is governed. And Zayuk provides governance as a feature in our app where all of your rules are available. We itemize your rules by the articles so that you can tag those articles against tickets, against votes, in case these items change and you need traceability in the history of your property and the governance items of your property. Legal framework 47F and 47C. In North Carolina, the legal authority for HOA governance is primarily derived from Chapter 47F of the North Carolina General Statutes, known as the North Carolina Planned Community Act. Governs all single-family home subdivisions and planned unit developments created on or after January 1, 1999. Condos are governed by 47C, which was known as the Condo Act, quote unquote. Applies to all condominium communities created on or after October 1, 1986. Provide default procedural rules including requirements for notice, voting thresholds, and the recording amendments. For planned communities formed before January 1, 1999, the amendment process for the bylaws and declaration is governed primarily by the language in the governing document themselves and by Chapter 5A NC Nonprofit Corporation Act for amendment bylaws. There's 4 steps here. 1, reviewing governing documents. 2, drafting the amendment. 3, notice and voting. 4, approval and recording, as well as a conclusion. Reviewing governing documents seems to be the largest. Review declarations and bylaws, describing how amendments may be proposed and approved, who authorized to initiate an amendment, percentage of vote required for adoption. Under the PCA, unless the declaration provides a higher threshold than an amendment to a planned community's declaration requires the approval of the owners of lots to which at least 67% of the total votes in the association are allocated. We just heard that about Florida when they needed to have roofing done. I believe California has a similar percentage rule as well. The same threshold applies to condominium declarations under the Condo Act. Provided the amendments create declarant rights, increase the number of units, change the boundaries of units, change the allocated interest of a unit, or change the uses to which a unit is restricted, require unanimous consent to all the unit owners. Provides a method for amending the declaration without 67% member approval. So as long as the amendments are not explicitly prohibited by the declaration of the Condo Act, the amendments are considered ratified unless the majority of unit owners reject them at a meeting held within 10 to 60 days after notice. Bylaws, less stringent requirements. This is all in North Carolina. The executive board is authorized to adopt bylaws. However, the bylaws require a membership vote as governed by Chapter 55A. Drafting the amendment. A well-drafted amendment should avoid ambiguity, align with North Carolina statutes, and be internally consistent. with the rest of the association's documentations. Notice and voting. Poorly drafted language can lead to confusion. That's true. Disputes and litigation and may ultimately be found unenforceable by court. It can lead to confusion. Before vote, step 3, notice and voting. Before a vote can be held, members must be provided with adequate notice, at least 10 days and no more than 60 days. Clearly explain the proposed amendment and provide clear instructions for how members may vote. So Zayuk does this. We give you a protocol to email everyone, notify everyone of the vote. We give you a schedule. You can choose start date, end date. You can link a certain rule to that so that you have traceability and start creating digital threads within your property, viewable digital threads. And we are about to input a model here so that you can see your digital thread. And why would you need a digital thread? AI. And I'm not going to get too deep into that, but just know it's for you as a visualization to understand, as well as for AI. Step 4, approval and recording. Once the amendment has been approved by the required percentage of votes, the final step is to properly document and, if necessary, record the amendment. Amendments to the declaration must be recorded with the Register of Deeds in the county where the community is located in accordance with the PCA and Condo Act. Okay. Fairly standard to other states. Here's one by Tampa Bay Times. Hillsborough, Apollo Beach residents sue homeowners association over pickleball courts. Pickleball courts are very noisy and have been very controversial for their noise. Residents of the Andalucia community say the noise from the nearby courts is disruptive. Lots of pongs, pong, 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 pong. That's what it sounds. I mean, that's what this article is saying, and that's what this sounds like. This article is written by John C. Cody and of the Beacon Media. America's fastest growing sport and one of the loudest is unsettling nearby homeowners, many of which are military vets. Florida lawmakers this summer approved Senate Bill 180, which bans local governments from adopting restrictive or burdensome changes to land use rules or permitting procedures without developer consent. The noise from the pickleball courts close to homes is a growing problem, Commission Chairperson Ken Hagan. It's horrendous sound. Proposed a temporary halt on permits for pickleball courts within 250 feet of homes. The motion was defeated 4-3. The Commissioner, Harry Cohen, said this was not legal. It's an absolute direct violation of the Senate bill that the county attorney just mentioned, and there are real consequences to getting in the way of that. Made an additional motion directing staff to further research the growing number of lawsuits against municipalities and HOAs over pickleball noise. All right, that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for the break. That was a little tough for me too, but I got through it. We got through it. Hopefully everyone is having a great week and enjoying themselves, and take care.